We're going to go over exactly how to improve your freestyle efficiency and technique so that you can swim smoother and hold a pace in training faster than you have been, and then to translate that into racing so that you can get those PBs. We're going to look at one of my members inside my coaching program. When he came to me, he wasn't feeling confident. His technique was all over the place and he was getting tired after 100 meters. He wasn't able to hold a pace, consistent pace throughout, 2100s, for example. Then when we looked at his technique, we fixed the things that he needed to fix. He's able to be more confident for his Ironman in a couple of months that he did. He was able to execute that really well, and then he wasn't as tired after the swimming part so that he could do the two other legs. If you're looking for something entertaining or a quick dopamine hit, then just click off this video, because this video is going to go in depth about the freestyle technique, the freestyle efficiency, and how you can actually implement it into your own training to improve your own technique. We're going to look at my efficiency and see what I do so that you can replicate it. Like I said, we're going over Sam, one of the members that I have in my program. He is doing, well, he just did an Ironman and he's got another one in the next couple of months. So we're going to see what you can take from this, because sometimes people's strokes look quite similar or they have the similar weaknesses and things that need to work on. So that's why it's good to give an example of someone that might be in a similar position to you. Then we're going to look at my stroke to see what I do really well and what things that you can implement into your own training and into your own technique. If you want to work with me one-to-one like this, like Sam, then just shoot me a message on Instagram. Just DM me the word swim, or just give me a text on there. So what he said, and this is not me, he was feeling more confident after this because he was coming up to his race day, and his actual stroke was feeling a lot more smooth. He was able to get into a better catch position. His glide was feeling better. And actually understanding what it looks like. And that's what the important thing about this is being able to video your swim so that you can look back on it, just for your own record, so you can see what it looks like. Because feeling in the water and looking at it visually from a third person is always different, and sometimes we feel like we're catching properly, and then when we look at it, we're not. So that's why it's really important. Where I train, we have $1 million camera system to actually improve our swimming, and we have dedicated sessions where we go over that. So that's why I always say that it's really important to video your swims, even if it's just a 25 or 50 meter of you doing some kind of swimming or some kind of drills. It's really important. So when we look at some of these videos here, we're going to look at his head position, his rotation, and kind of where he's catching. And those are like the important areas we always like to look at in every swimmer. So the leg kick is consistent, but leg kick in open water swimming isn't as important as the upper body positioning. But if you are a swimmer who swims in the pool or train in the pool, just like this, we do need to have a kind of a consistent leg kick, because that's going to help elevate your hips and put you in a better body position, which is obviously what we want to improve on the most. But as we can see here, as we go through it, his recovery arms are fine. He's leading with the elbow when he comes out of the water. See the way his elbows are coming out of the water? That's what we want. That's a really good position to be in. And he's catching all the way throughout the back of his hips here, which means he's getting full extension, which is again what we want. The thing that we want to look out for the most is this head positioning and the catch area. So as you can see here, when he's rotating to breathe, his opposite hand has now dropped in the water, which means he's not actually catching much of the water. So this arm should actually be still straight out in front of him at the top of the surface of the water, so that he can actually catch earlier in the stroke and then pull himself forward. So what I always like to say is when you're breathing to the opposite side, try keep this head and this shoulder gap a lot smaller. You're almost like lying on top of your shoulder when you come to rotate. This is kind of the gap we want. Whereas at the moment, the gap you can see is really far. The distance between that is really far, which means he's opening up his body positioning and he's creating more surface area, which means it creates more drag. It also means that you can see his body positioning here. It almost looks like a banana shape, which is creating more drag. So again, head positioning dictates kind of the body positioning too. So we want to really, have a fixated top half so that our bottom half is going to be in a streamlined position, which is obviously really good for swimming because we want to be in a streamlined position going through the water. So that's the first thing that we looked at, and what we wanted to fix is just being able to keep this arm in this positioning here while breathing, which means he just needs to breathe and then rotate his head back into neutral a little bit quicker. At the moment, his breathing and head position is a little bit late. As you can see, he's still almost breathing and looking that other side when this arm is coming around. By this point, you want your head to be looking down at the floor and want to be neutral position at this point. So because of this catch position being dropped, his arm and elbow being dropped too early, it means then he's only catching from here and he's not actually in a strong position to pull himself forward, which means, as you can see, he doesn't actually propel himself much further. And this is quite common. It means then you're having to increase the amount of strokes you do and not actually getting any benefit and return from it because you're not going further with each arm pull. So if you want to be more efficient in the water and hold a faster time, you need to be able to increase your distance per stroke, which just means that you need to take less strokes per 25 or per 50 so that you can actually increase the efficiency of each pull, meaning you're pulling more water. So that was the first thing we looked at. Another thing was the rotation then in his freestyle. At the moment, you can see he's quite flat until he breathes, but obviously that's going to be more natural rotating when you're breathing. But we want to be able to rotate on the arm that we're not breathing to as well, so that we're actually increasing rotation on both sides, not just the rotation to where we're breathing, but when we're coming back round to neutral, following through with rotation is really important. And what I mean by this is, say he's got good rotation here through the torso, the hips, which is good here, but we want to also rotate when we're bringing this hand in too, so this right arm, we want to then rotate and follow through. So we want to breathe and follow through with the stroke, really pushing the hips through and pushing the torso through, so that again we're increasing our distance per stroke. And I always like to use the analogy is, if you think of a boxer trying to fight, they're not just moving their arms to fight, they're really rotating through their hips and having through their back leg in order to actually create that power and create that momentum. And that's kind of what we want to replicate in swimming, is using this power from the hips and the torso in through each stroke. That way you're able to then maximize the propulsion from the stroke and also increase that distance per stroke that we were just. So drills to actually improve this, increasing the catch, increasing the rotation, better head positioning, these three key factors to freestyle, is going to be things like you've probably already done before, but using drills to actually improve your swimming, because sometimes when we want to improve stuff and we're just swimming at full stroke, it's quite hard to then actually concentrate on that, because then we're thinking about other things too, like our kicking, our catch. If you want to focus on your head positioning, it's good to try put it into one focus area rather than trying to do it as a whole. So if you want to work on head positioning, for example, body position kick here with a paddle on your head, which will restrict your head movement, which means that you can only then rotate as much as you need. And this kind of forces your head position to only breathe to the side and not lifting your head away from that extended arm like we were talking about. Also, remember when we were saying about this gap between the shoulder and the head to be a little bit smaller? Again, this is super important, and this is what we're doing on this drill, is we're keeping that hand extended while breathing. And that's just going to create some muscle memory, so that when you come to do full stroke or implement single arm, that you're then replicating this movement in this area. So that's a really good drill to do. If you're finding it hard, you can always do it with a kickboard in order to create some more balance and create a little bit more support for you. Again, wearing fins as well is also a great way to keep your hips up on the surface of the water. Single arm then, like I mentioned, is a really good drill for rotation and distance per stroke. So again, what we're looking at is, again, high elbow catch, keeping a dry armpit. Then as soon as we enter, we want to keep that arm extended. So we don't want to pull just yet. See the way the pull hasn't actually just started just yet, and we're rotating. So this other arm, opposite arm, is now right out of the water. So we've really increased that rotation when we're coming through. We've also taken our breath at the same time, which again is close to that arm that is extended. That gap is small. It's like we're almost lying on it. We're looking, to the side. And then as soon as we have done that and we want to rotate back to neutral, we then start the catch. And as you can see, the catch is now started from the top of the surface and is now coming round. We are not starting it and breathing when we're here already, just like the last clip that we seen with the Sam who was swimming there. So now that we're starting to go back into that neutral position, that's when we start to catch, and again have full extension out of the catch position in order to come around and repeat it again. So that's another drill that's really important and can then dissect each part. Again, you can wear a paddle on your head doing this, so it restricts that movement of the head position, and you can wear things like fins as well to keep your head, your legs up in the water. We've established what things we can work on and why these things are important to work on. We've looked at drills to actually look at one area of things, such as the head positioning, the catch, rotation. We're going to look at my stroke to see then the things that we've talked about and how I've managed to do it in this. So when I said about the gap between the head and the shoulder, this is what I mean. So when I come to breathe, as you can see, the gap here is quite minimized. It's my shoulder and my arms, or my elbow, my hand haven't dropped to down here where this cursor is, just like Sam was doing. My hand is still extended right out in front of me while I'm breathing. And then as soon as I then turn to rotate and go back into neutral, that's when then you can start the catch position. Also see my catch positioning is quite deep, which is something that is really good for sprinting. So if you're a sprinter, you want to have a more of a deep catch, and I'm using my whole arm and my forearm as the paddle. It's not just my hand that's catching the water, it's my forearm and my arm here that's catching the water also. So you want to have engagement throughout your whole arm and feel that resistance throughout the whole stroke. If you don't feel the resistance throughout the whole stroke, the whole pull, which means around here, sometimes this is a really easy place to slip water, and you'll find if you're slipping water, a little bit of whitewash will appear, which means you're just slipping a little bit. So this is why I always recommend, and something that I'm trying to improve myself, is keeping more of a higher elbow catch. So a little bit shallower, you could say. So my elbow is a little bit higher up here, so it's more of a right angle kind of catch. And that way I'm able to then bring my hand past my body rather than towards my hip. At the moment in this clip, I'm going towards my hip, which can create a little bit of slippage in that area, which means you're not catching all the water throughout. Because if you're catching past your body, you can feel that resistance all the way out until this point when you're coming out of the water. Whereas if you start to feel less resistance in your hand, then it probably means then you're slipping a little bit of water, which means then you're not obviously going as far with each arm pull, and something we want to try and minimize to the best of our ability. So this is the improved kind of version of that, something that I've been trying to work on myself. And when we slow it down here, you can see that my elbow is now a little bit higher and it's not as deep, which means then I'm creating more resistance and able to then pull that water. And as you can see, I'm trying to minimize coming into the midline here. So I'm coming more past my body rather than coming towards the midline, which means I'm keeping the resistance the whole way. Again, I'm starting my catch position at the top of the surface of the water. I'm not, slipping water there. And again, just repeating the same process. Again, when we're talking about breathing, as you can see, I'm rotated, I'm breathing, and my arm isn't all the way down here like Sam was. My arm is still at the top of the water and I'm starting the catch there, which means then when I come to rotate and come into neutral, that's when I can start the actual catch and then pull myself through. And again, following through with this arm. So that was a quick video on the head positioning, the catch position, rotation, and just different drills in order to actually improve that. Things that you've probably already done, but now that you've seen what you actually need to do and concentrate on when you're doing those drills, you've seen someone who might be in a similar position to you, and you've seen my stroke, so that maybe you can, you're closer to that and you can see what I do well within my own stroke. If you got any more questions, just leave them in the comments, or again, DM me on Instagram.